rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hope everybody had a wonderful summer, and if you have kids returning to school tomorrow, everything goes well. I'm just going to push everything to the end of the meeting so we can just get started, because I know some people have childcare issues. Just a quick attendance. It looks like we have everybody here except Community Board 3. So we're going to move right into the presentation. So New York City PS, you guys are up first. So
Great.
you have the floor. Take it away.
From here, or do you want us to?
However you're comfortable. If you'd like to scan to project, or
Yeah.
so that the camera can get you a little bit better. Yeah.
So hi, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for having us. My name's Katie. This is David and Serge. We're from New York City Public Schools, and we're from the Office of Policy and Advocacy, which is a relatively new thing the Chancellor is trying to do, and I'll explain more in a minute. As noted, tomorrow is the first day of school, so it's a busy week for us, but we're really excited to come and have this opportunity because the purpose of our office is really to strengthen our relationships and working together with community partners like all of yourselves that we haven't always had the most traditionally the most strong relationships with. We have really built-in structures in our system for working with parent leaders, working with our panel for education policy. But we want to find the places where we have gaps in our community outreach and our community work and fill those gaps, and most importantly take the information we get from those relationships and more directly tie it to our own policy making in New York City Public Schools. I've worked in a host of roles at New York City Public Schools, and so has David and Serge. And one piece of feedback I've gotten consistently in any job I've had is, you guys, talk to people and they give you information and we have these really good conversations, so then there's not really a lot of follow-up. You don't really tell us like how you use the feedback, how you tied it into your decision-making, and that's something that we're really trying to address. So I'm happy to talk a little bit about a few things that we've been working on more specifically, although I will say we're involved in pretty much everything, at least a little bit. So if you have questions about anything or feedback about anything, we're happy to talk about that. But I want to give David and Serge an opportunity to introduce themselves too.
Hi everyone, happy to be here. David Mantell, and as Katie said, excited to be kind of part of this work as a point for kind of more proactively working with you all and other folks on kind of what your priorities are, what our priorities are, and making sure that comes to bear in the policy making process as we look at a lot of different issues across the agency.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Serge St. Ledger Jr., Senior Director for Outreach. I dealt with the Borough President's offices, all 5 of them, in my former iteration in the Office of Family and Community Engagement. So I've taken those skills and now in the Office of Policy and Advocacy. So we do hope that this is not one and only sort of the conversation. We really hope that we open lines of communication so we can better inform how we form policy at the New York City Department of Education, and specifically how it affects schools, communities that we stand on. So we look forward to ongoing conversations.
Great. So I'll talk about one thing that's been we've been working on, our office and the whole agency really has been working on all summer. But like I said, happy to really talk about any topic, take questions about any topic. But I'm sure many of you are aware that last year, last legislative session, the state changed state law, and now we have a state law that requires us to implement what the state calls a bell-to-bell cell phone ban, which means that students cannot use their cell phones in schools anymore. This is a big shift for some of our schools and not such a big shift for others. Previously, we sort of let schools make their own policies, and about half our schools did have some sort of policy limiting cell phone access during the day. But that's not going to be true for all of our schools, and we did a lot of work over the summer figuring out what steps we would have to take as an agency to get this in place, doing some engagement with various stakeholders about what we would need to see in order to implement this successfully, and then in the last month in particular, working to support schools getting ready to set this up. And I'll just share with you, I think, a couple of really key points that we find people told us, like, we want, people should know about the law and about the policy in the city. One is that it doesn't mean that kids can't bring their phones to school. In fact, kids, this is something I think comes up a lot, because people who remember when we did used to have a district policy about this, you couldn't even bring the phone in the building. Kids would bring them to the bodegas and pay $1 to get them stored, and nobody liked that. That's not true anymore. Kids will be able to bring them. They just have to have them off and away during the school day. They also don't necessarily have to be collected. I know a lot of schools will choose to collect them, put them in lockers and storage bins, and then disperse them at the end of the day. But some schools may use a different option where the kids can keep them on their person or even in their own locker or something. They just may use a pouch or a similar device to just ensure that they're out. They're not out. And the law does not require that they be collected. So some schools may choose to do that. Depending on the school, the size of the school, the age of the students, this might be a better option. There are exceptions to the policy, particularly around students who might have, an IEP or a 504, which are, plans that say that the student has a disability or a health need that might require the phone. The most common example of it is if a student has diabetes and they use an application on their phone to track their insulin. That's absolutely an allowable exception. And we've been working with schools to make them familiar with what exceptions are present. There are other exceptions as well, but I think that's the one that people have been the most concerned about. We're also not allowed to suspend a student for having their phone out. There are other disciplinary actions we would take if a student does this knowing they're not supposed to, but suspension is not one of them. Of course, if having the phone out turns into a bigger thing, an argument with a staff member, they take their phone out because of a physical altercation, that's another thing, but just taking the phone out is not a suspendable offense. That's in the state law and in our policy. So those are some of the big things that have come up a lot as we've done the engagement. The last thing I'll say is that schools have to, as a result of this, one piece of feedback we've heard a lot is parents were so concerned about being able to get in contact with their student if there was an emergency of some sort. So two things I'll say is one is our policy does have a exception in place for exigent circumstances, that the student's family member is in the hospital that day, for example, and the student wants to keep their phone on them so they can get an update. Like, that's the sort of thing that would be allowable under a personal emergency exception. Schools are also required to make sure parents have information about a point of direct contact at the school. If they do need to get in contact with their student, this person needs to be able to get to the student immediately, get them in contact with the family. And schools are supposed to send out information about who that person is and how to get in contact with them, at least one person. And that is all, schools are also supposed to be sharing their policy with families as the school year starts. So those are, I think, some of the main points that we want people to know and just be aware of. The only other thing I'll say is this is a big undertaking. Schools have really worked hard to be ready for this in the new year. If there are issues that you guys are hearing, if you hear from the communities here that, there's problems, like, we're happy to help and try to assist with that, because it's a big change for a lot of people. We want people to feel comfortable with this. In the end, I think people really do feel strongly that having the phones out in schools has been distracting, has taken away from academics, from learning, has caused issues with bullying and safety, and there are a lot of positive things that people have come and shared with us, saying we do think there are, but it has to be done well, and we want to make sure we're supporting that. So like I said, that's one big thing we've been working on. I'm happy to talk about some others, or even anything that you guys are hearing. That's what we're supposed to do, is hear what you guys are hearing. But I'm happy to pause there and just talk now.
So I have a few questions. Do you envision that at some point with the school policy, because I'm just thinking in my brain, my years of constituent services, that there will one day be an across-the-board policy for all schools? Because I think as people talk, well, my friend whose son goes to PS 50 doesn't have to do this, but my son who goes to PS 53 does have to give in his phone and stuff like that. That I think, everybody's always comparing each other to things. That, do you think as the policy evolves that there may be a citywide policy? Or are we going to keep it in?
It's an
at the
interesting
school
question.
level?
I'll say that there is almost nothing in the city. We have, 1,800 schools. I would say there's almost nothing that's the same in every single school. And it would, you know, when you think about implementing this at like a 6,000 person high school versus a, you know, co-located District 75 program, like obviously the challenges are going to be different and the logistics are going to be different. I do think, you know, as more and more schools do this, and we do hear about things that are working really well, this is something that came up already because we have enough schools doing this that we know where it goes well, that we'll be able to share more and more best practices with schools. But I do always think there'll be, you know, these like fundamental differences in some of the schools that will make just some policies work for them and some not. I don't know if you wanted to.
No, I think that captures it pretty well in terms of the difficulty of having one singular policy. I mean, we have heard, you know, from some folks about maybe just like by district, there's a little bit more say from kind of coming from like that particular superintendent about best practices and how to do things if there are similarities across district, less so kind of like a full citywide policy, but just potentially, I think, having templates available for schools so that they have something to draw off of.
And then you mentioned like in a situation with special circumstance, like some family members in the hospital. What would be the procedure for that? Like a doctor's note, a note from the parent?
A note from the parent is probably sufficient, but every school will have their own, you know, they'll have their own point person, they'll have their own review process, so it'll be important to be in contact with the school to ask about what they want, what information they would need.
So it's mandatory and it's not mandatory. And mandatory take not having phones in the class, it's kind of confusing, because this is the first I'm hearing this. Understood from all of the press conferences and everything going on, it was mandatory, I assumed, from all public schools.
It's mandatory that this phones not be out during the school day on school property. So that's why the state calls it the bell-to-bell cell phone ban, which I think they also think sounds catchy, but
So it's kind of, they have the whoever runs the school, they make the decision, the principal.
as long as it
Principal
fits
based.
in the broader parameters of the kids can't have the phones out during the
Does
school
that
day.
affect the charter schools? Or the
Charter schools are all
city
subject.
funds them, don't they?
Yes.
It's a state law, so they're also subject to it.
Yeah.
Now, what happens with a school that takes away? So I'm just trying to be devil advocate.
Of course. Believe me, you've been doing it all summer.
We get it, we get a lot of interesting phone calls, we'll say. So now what happens if, God forbid, like a kid had a brand new iPhone 16 and had to give it in and that phone disappears? Is the school or DOE responsible to replace it?
There is a process, actually it's run through the controller's office, it's an existing process for claims when you have a.
So they're never getting their cell phone
Lost,
back.
it depends, I mean,
We
It
deal with
depends.
this, we deal with it all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, it's usually a year and 90 days, and 9 out of 10 are not resolved within a 90. I'm gonna even say 95% of complaints are not resolved within a year and 90 days.
It's an important, it's a verbatim question that has come up often. And I think, as Kay said, there is the process through the comptroller's office. I think if this becomes a pervasive problem, it's something that we'll have to, you know, talk about more deeply. But, you know.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We've been talking about it a lot all summer as like, oh, if these phones are collected, then we're more likely to get lost. We did a little review and it turns out that it hasn't been a big problem, and the controller's office also shared with us they haven't seen a ton of claims. And thinking about it more, you know, if the kids don't have them out in the hallways, they're not going to drop, they're not going to get. So it'll be interesting to see what actually plays out, but it's something we've definitely thought about and included in our resources.
Anybody else?
Aren't some of the schools tagging them?
Some of them will collect them, yes.
They're
They don't
tagging
have to collect them, but logistically for some schools, that's the choice that they're going to make, yeah.
In the news on my drive here, Mayor Adams is turning off the internet within the schools, so somebody couldn't leave a tablet on the desk or wear their iPhone watches. So that's what I heard just now.
So one thing that's important to know is that if it's a school-issued device, students will still be allowed to use school-issued devices.
Right, but the
so-
ones that they may have in their bags.
That if they don't have the Wi-Fi, so like my
Yeah.
older one went to Catholic high school, and I know at St. Peter's, they just cut off they didn't share the Wi-Fi password with the kids, so they could have their devices on them, but it didn't do anything.
There's no system-wide policy of turning off the internet. Some schools, I'm sure you all know, some of our schools,
I know some of them do already, I know
you
Martinville
barely have
does.
any service to begin with, so it's kind of a moot point. And I know some schools who have in the past used that to their advantage when trying to manage this in schools. But we're not turning off internet in
Well,
schools.
that's just what was reported.
And I do know
coincidentally.
that some of our Staten Island high schools do
Yeah.
lock down the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm sure some schools use that. This is a good example of things that some schools might do to manage this differently than other schools. It might make sense for some schools, it might not make sense for other schools.
And some of the pouches, the mechanisms for
Yes, that's true.
keeping the phones away, disable the internet when they're in the pouch.
Yeah.
Now, what about with the watch?
Yeah, that's not allowed either. The state law is basically, said, it's talked about as a cell phone ban, but it's internet-enabled device. So iPad, a smartwatch, if you have those glasses, I don't know.
Anything that a student could go on the internet on. So we had somebody ask about like an AirTag, which you can't, which just tracks, you know, whatever it is. That is okay because you can't actually access the internet on it.
Anybody else? Questions?
I guess real quick, for enforcement, that's just gonna be on a school-by-school basis in terms of like what the penalty would be. It's like, say, you know, if you're walking in with an Apple Watch, the deans or the school would enforce that policy to have their kid either remove it or, you know, they'll have to figure out that.
Yeah, we have what we call like an existing like ladder of discipline, which
Okay.
like, you know, is a guidance tool for schools to use to figure out how to respond to certain things. So there's there's an existing set of resources and, you know, guidance that schools have that will probably, you know, more than we'll be looking at now, right? Because now it's a new problem for many of them.
If the phone is taken away on the day of, are they given the phone at the end of the day?
Yes.
And I guess it'll be a school-by-school basis, where they decide to give the phones. I could just imagine that if the phone is taken during second period English class, you know, how does it get to the student at the end of the day? What happens if it gets damaged? Is it supposed to, you mentioned something about, a pouch that it goes into?
Yeah.
I mean, schools can, like, purchase pouches, if that's the mechanism that they want. As Katie was saying, some of them might have a storage locker, some of them might have bins that they collect. It shouldn't be the case that it would wait until second period that, you know, a phone would be collected, because it should be upon entry into the school or at the beginning of the school day.
Yeah.
And again, I think this goes back to the question about, you know, a standard citywide policy, which is that different schools have different, you know, ways that kids enter the school, different ways, you know, that kids get settled and start the school day, and so each school is is figuring out their own procedure in terms of how to collect them, or whether they're gonna store it in a pouch in the backpack, you know, like that.
Yeah, some of the pouches almost look like, because one of the, IS 51 had contacted us, but they were like, well, you know, now we gotta do this. They almost, the one that they were looking at, almost looked like the old-fashioned, like, shoe rack over the thing, you know, plastic, where you stuff the phones in there instead of, and then it seals. That's kind of like what they look like.
I was given one at a concert.
Those are pouches,
Yeah.
But
It's
they
like
take
a
the phone.
Kevlar,
Yeah.
small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like these, I guess, were like for a whole classroom,
Yeah.
that the teacher could just like hang it almost on the back of the door and then put it in, and it had like students' names like labeled on them and everything.
We were able to use schools in June, resources to implement this, so schools got the option to like look at these different, this is a shocking range of pouches, I'll say. I think people think a lot of them when you're describing it with the magnet, but there are some that are basically almost like a Ziploc bag, they're clear, you can still see the phone, that was appealing to some schools, and then some are choosing lockers or storage, depending on what makes sense for their schools. We really give them money in June to then purchase whatever they would need to implement this, and then whether it be a pouch, whether it be the lockers, whether it be a different storage thing. And then, yeah, some of them collect them and they have these labels on them, they put them in the storage bins, and then some of them they choose to distribute them at the last period of the day, because that's something they're trying to do as kids go out the door. So that's one reason why, like David said, like, you know, like, people are gonna want flexibility on this.
You know, I would think that in high school, that's gonna be because when you come in first period, you don't have the same teacher for first period that you have in eighth period. So you have a totally different person.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you know, you start in homeroom and end in homeroom.
Right.
You only have homeroom
Yeah.
once.
Patrice, when my kids go to Patrice, we had to go to orientation yesterday. So what they're doing in the morning when they come in, they will have them at the front. So you got the choice of either turning your phone off completely and keeping it in your bag, but you can't bring it out at all. Because then if you bring it out, if you take it out of the bag, and then you get in trouble. So you have to see the principal or the court parent. So you have the option of that, or put it in a pouch or give it to when you first come into the school. So that's what Patrice is doing. And at the end of the day, before they go on the bus, they'll have their phones ready for them, and they'll get the phone, and it'll be a smooth interaction. But they give it an option, either turn your phone completely off, don't take it out during lunch, anything like that to the end of the day, then you would take it out. That's the
All the kids are gonna have to talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the goal.
Exactly, yeah.
And I will say, we do have high schools that have successfully collected and dispersed at the end of the day. We do have schools, but I do think a lot of the high schools will probably choose the pouch that then the kids keep on them, because
Yeah.
it's just logistically, to your point, easier to manage.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the information.
Of course.
Okay, so moving right along.
We got some information for you.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Just a couple of, there's something, a resource about the cell phones, and then a couple other, some are like things they share.
You guys have like an infographic or something?
Why do people actually access the internet too much of that? I'll figure it out.
You don't have to like turn your quick room and figure it out.
Sorry.
Pass it back to them.
No.
Thank you. If not, I'll get the doctor.
Thank you.
Do you get a copy? I'll have a copy for the minutes.
Yeah. Please, please, man.
So I'll just pass that down, I guess we'll give them back the extras. I think that's
Again.
Or no, just three.
There's four.
Oh, there should be four.
Gotcha.
That's the last one.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. All right. Moving right along, we have New York City Department of Parks and Recreation for their Vital Parks Explorer tool. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is J.C. Peoples. I'm with Commissioner Rodriguez-Risa's office. I'm joined by Borough Commissioner Joe Holmesy and his Chief of Staff, Jim Toll. We're just going to be going over a quick presentation and a very quick demo on the Vital Parks Explorer and our Vital Parks for All initiative. There we go. So Vital Parks for All is about investing into New York City's living infrastructure. It's our plan to equitably strengthen the health environment of our communities across all 5 boroughs. We have been saying this from day one, parks are essential to living in the city. We think that they're just as important as our roads and our sewers. We have a lot of parks, you're the Borough of Parks, 30,000 acres across all 5 boroughs, and 5.7 million trees under our care and growing. So why do we want to invest in them now, right? People have been going to our parks more since COVID-19, right? They're a gathering place. In 2023, the US Surgeon General declared an epidemic of loneliness. We think that parks is a great connector. Climate change and extreme heat, if you've been following the River Resilience Project, I just butchered that, but They help us protect our shorelines here. Our declining life expectancy passed by near Adams last year. We're trying to raise that back up to 83. They help us stay fit. Again, they connect us to each other, increasing the life expectancy. And we know this. We have a lot of old buildings. A lot of them were built in the work progress administration, 1950s or prior. It's time to restore the infrastructure, make them safer to go into. So it's our initial investment of $3.2 billion, as I said, to restore aging park facilities, deliver new vital park elements, which we'll talk about in a minute, to our underserved areas, and empower you as New Yorkers with the data that you need to advocate for your park system. So as I mentioned, a vital park system is a park system that is supported by clean and safe environments. They keep us green and resilient, and they're empowered by engaged New Yorkers. A working group that was comprised of deputy commissioners at the agency, led by the commissioner's office, found that there were 21 vital park elements. This is a short list. These are resources that the parks provide to your communities that keep them going. So they can be anything between new and renovated parks. We'll talk about that definition in a minute. Playgrounds, your park enforcement patrol divisions, volunteer events, events, stewardship, etc. We'll show you in a minute. And so in order to show you where these resources are, we've created a new map, which we're going to pivot to in a minute. That shows what the 21 elements are and what your community has access to. So you know what you can advocate for more and what you need parks to provide for your community. So if you don't mind, if you want to, you can scan this QR code. We're going to do a live demonstration. You can access on your phone, it's pretty cool.
Wi-Fi is ready too if you want to use it.
I'm sorry?
Wi-Fi is available too if you want to use it right now.
Yes. And I'm going to escape really quick. I'm going to go. Okay, I'm also going to sit down just so I can do the demonstration a little bit easier. And because Staten Island is all the way down here, we're just going to be focused on Staten Island today, okay? All right, so before I begin, outside of your role in your community boards, I want you to think about why are parks important to you? What do they do for your life? How do they bring you together? And then as we move forward to the conversation, think about what your constituents bring to your office with parks, right? And so before I begin, we're going to have 21 elements down here. So these are the 21 elements that the working group identified. These are the resources that parks provide to your communities. It's a short list. Maybe it will evolve one day, but for right now, 21 elements. Down at the bottom, we have our value pillars that I mentioned: clean and safe, green and resilient, empowered by engaged New Yorkers. Now, all of these, the 3 value pillars, are somehow related to the 21 elements. You can see which ones are related to by these icons here. Down at the bottom of this screen here, this little rectangle, you have 3 views in which you can view this map. Your community districts, which we'll be focused on today because you're obviously the community boards, New York State disadvantaged communities, which are primarily in Community Board 1 here in Staten Island, and the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force precincts. These are areas with high gun violence. None of them are in Staten Island. And then at the top, you have a search bar. You can do your address. And here, it will take you to your block level access. Okay, so I'm going to ask, is Community Board 1 here?
Yes.
What's an element or a resource in your park system that you personally care about?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. No.
What is something that parks provide to your community that you like?
We do a lot.
Thank you.
Basically, the 2 most important things are the tree removals
Okay,
of the trees that are lifting up sidewalks is number 1.
okay,
And the And the parks, the kids' parks, all of them. Community Board 1 needs that more than a lot of other places.
For sure.
Yeah.
So to start with your concern about the tree removals, this doesn't track tree removals or tree requests, but what this does do is show tree canopy. I'm gonna save that for the very end. For a more simplified view of this tool, we're gonna do playgrounds, okay?
Many of the playgrounds are essential.
So playgrounds are right here. We've identified them as they keep communities clean and safe. I know it's hard to see, guys, I'm sorry. But on the 21 elements, playground is right here. This is alphabetical order. So with this icon here, I know that it keeps our parks clean and safe. How do they keep our parks clean and safe? More eyes in the park. Kids are engaged. Okay, so I'm going to click the little bubble on the left-hand side, and all of a sudden I have this new shapefile, or this like new colors on the shapefile that shows me percentages for each community board in Staten Island. Now, if I want to know what the citywide average access is, I'm gonna go up to my definition box. That's this box right here. And it says a vital park system includes access to places for children to play. Citywide, 79% of people live within a 10-minute walk to a park with a children's playground maintained by NYC Parks. Now, if I go down here, I see that Staten Island Community Board 1, 52% live within a 10-minute walk to a park. Staten Island 2, 32%, and Staten Island 3, 25%. What's the biggest find based off of the citywide average access?
Staten Island is being left out as usual.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes you also are a bigger borough, it's harder
We're the
to.
borough of parks though.
Well, it sounds like it's being based
We've been
on the
sold a
underserved
false.
more than anything
Yeah.
else. That's what I feel.
We're looking at places where we can provide these resources, right? The other thing to keep in mind, Staten Island, sometimes this tool is a little bit skewed. It's harder to walk around Staten Island. We're looking at places in which you can actually get from point A to point B by walking. So keep that in mind too.
Sorry, because just speculating here as the Staten Island DC, I'm also guessing if we were to pivot to natural areas and things like that, we would expand
I'm only
community.
teasing you.
Okay, I gotta address the board.
Commissioner Holmesy, Staten Island Parks, doing a fantastic job.
We're putting
It's
playgrounds
a really
everywhere, Joan.
hard disclaimer to do here in Staten Island.
Well, Joan's good, she's got 52%, but.
Wow, that's great.
Brianna's only got
Well,
25%.
a few things that make me happy.
And I was surprised that the Mid-Island's only got 32%.
So we'll look at each of them really quick
Belcher
and
has
we'll
this
move on
beautiful
to
big
A
park.
10-minute
We
walk.
want
10-minute walk.
10 minutes walk.
Yes, this is based off the census data with your residences and your community boards, right? So it has to be an accessible walk as well. Like it can't just like walk across an expressway, right? We're looking at how do we get from point A to point B by an actual viable walk. So we're gonna go to Staten Island 1 just to see. We're in Staten Island Community Board 1, right?
Yes.
Sorry to embarrass myself.
So be careful, I'm taking notes on
Okay. Do y'all see how all of these streets are green here?
Yes.
Right? All of these blocks, all of these streets are within a 10-minute walk to the playground. The playground is identified by the green dot here, right? And the green dot here. So, Joe, can you, am I not seeing that right? Olive Heavenly Harvest, is that a playground?
No,
I've never heard of
it's,
that.
McDonald Park, I think.
it's.
Okay, so McDonald Park is a playground that serves these communities over here. Now, if I was to scroll over, do you see these streets that are not highlighted in that deep green?
Yes.
Those are streets that are out without a playground within a 10-minute walk, right? There might not be public land for us to build a park. Or maybe the park property that we have actually doesn't allow it. So if we're ever looking at doing acquisitions in your borough, this might be an area that we consider to help Community Board 1 grow access to playgrounds within a 10-minute walk.
And it's about the schoolyards.
Schoolyards, if they are sponsored by NYC Parks, if there's like a, I think it's jointly operated MOA or whatever it's called within our agency, they would be included on this. I know I live in Sunset Park, Park Slope in Brooklyn. There are 2 that are identified as playgrounds.
Because there are some that are open to the public, but the problem is the principals aren't letting them in.
Yeah, and therefore, if there was not an agreement between the 2 agencies, it wouldn't be identified here.
So like for you, like IS-61, for example, is not a jointly operated playground.
But
Whereas-
PS 41 is. PS 41.
You know, 41 had the Trust for Public Land project.
Yes, that's different. Like whereas PS-31,
That's
which is
not
Davis,
maintained.
that
It's
is jointly
maintained
operated.
by the school.
Oh.
Because because they got a grant for Trust for Public Land to pay the custodian extra to keep it open later hours, that's not park stuff.
Oh.
But for example, parks would be like IS 51, right?
Markham, yeah,
Markham,
IS
Pearl.
Markham, PS9 at Naples, Pearl is one, PS38 Midland Field, IS2 Midland Playground. So
Well,
there's
you
probably,
know, that's PS40, PS38 is, it's
Yes.
not connected with this, because that's a park, right?
well, it's a park, but so the jointly operated means that basically they get the use of it during the day.
Oh.
So during the day, they can close the entire property and the school can go out and use it.
Oh, that's very nice. And the same for 52.
What's it?
No, 52
Duncan.
has its own
So-
playground.
Yeah, so Duncan has a portion that they
A
can use,
portion
like the
that's
basketball
open.
courts. And then the playground, which isn't fenced in, is open to the public.
I see.
And the fence kinda is one of the defining things, because none of these areas, like, the schools don't use areas that aren't fenced in.
Right, right.
So I'm gonna show you another little feature, up here before we move on to community board 2 and 3. This is only showing the current view. So right, this is currently what you have. We, since the initiation of this tool, have created a new feature up here that says include future. So this is going to look at properties where places in which there will be a park. Did I go off the playgrounds? Huh.
I know your numbers went down instead of going up for future.
Yeah, that's strange.
The Mid-Island's only at 4%.
Okay, well, this is a little embarrassing. There's been there seems to be a glitch on my system. Playground should show it.
Oh,
Yeah, but,
yeah.
Do you see how when I did include future, these are highlighted and they're like the bold and white? Those are things that the Explorer identifying that we do have data for future elements. For whatever reason, at the moment, playgrounds have been taken off of that, but playground should absolutely be one that we have data for future projects, okay? So I will look into that. For a really quick pivot, we're gonna look for community board 1 at newer renovated parks. These are parks that have had a $400,000 capital investment within the last 5 years. So citywide, 79% of people within of all New Yorkers live within a 10-minute park of that's been considered newly renovated. Again, $400,000 in the last 5 years. So 79%, I'm going down here again, and I'm seeing that community board 1, you're at 62%,
But the other two got better.
46, yeah, and then
They have bigger, better parks.
45%. Now, this is with the include
Yeah.
future only. No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna toggle this off really quick. Bear with me, guys, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna take the toggle off of include future. We saw the number should have gone down, right? So 58% in Staten Island, community board 1, 45 and 2, 33 and 3. That is what you currently have. I'm gonna toggle back on just so I can do that really quick demonstration, and we are gonna go into community board 2. Is anybody here from community board 2? Oh, wow.
Oh. District.
Do you all see these orange streets?
Yes.
These orange streets mean that there is a future project in the pipeline in which is going to expand your access to a new or renovated park. It looks like that park property, let's see,
The green belt bracket is that.
oh, it's the green belt. Yeah, that's why we have the borough commissioner here. So the new renovated project in the green belt is actually expanding all that access. I'm gonna toggle off one more time, zoom in a little bit more so you can see. If I was to toggle off, we still have access to these streets over here. I'm gonna toggle on one more time. Some of the streets, especially over here for another park. Oh, see, this is where Staten Island gets, because your parks are so, your borough is more accessible by driving than it is by walking, where it's more complicated to show you the your renovated projects. But believe me when I say that if you were to toggle this on and off, you will find where future projects in our capital pipeline are actually going to expand access for your community, okay? So I'm gonna try over here just to see if I can identify some streets or capital projects to show you. No. It looks like in Staten Island, that's really interesting. In Staten Island, where the parks properties are located, that's almost makes me consider that like if there's an acquisition, we've already put land there. Or possibly that the toggle feature is currently not working. So I will reach out to them. Okay, we're gonna move on. And we're gonna do Staten Island Community Board 3. Is anybody here from Community Board 3? Okay. I love to show Staten Island Community Board 3 because you have a lot of access to nature and hiking. And we are going to do hiking trails. And this is where Staten Island really shines. So citywide, only 25% of people live within a 15-minute transit ride to a hiking trail. Now the reason why we changed transit ride to from walking is that we realized that some of these elements are regional elements. There's no way that a community member can walk to it. Recreation center, right? We're not going to be able to put a recreation center in every community board. It's not feasible. Hiking trails is one of those two. There's not land for us to do hiking trails. And this is again where Staten Island shines. 25% of people, Community Board 3, almost 80% of Staten Islanders in Community Board 3 live within a 15-minute transit ride. For Community Board 2, 68%, and still above the 25% average is Staten Island 1 at 35%. So you're doing well on hiking trails. If I was to go into Staten Island Community Board 3, I can find these trails at these emboldened lines here. So I'm actually able to tell, New Yorkers, look, these are the trails in your parks and where you can go hiking. We've identified the transit access based off of GPS data from residences to the trailhead. So it's not necessarily looking as far proximity to the midpoint of the trail, but definitely to the two trailheads or the multiple trailheads.
So transit, you mean automobiles?
Automobile.
Not buses?
No, but it does include buses, subways, and also ferries for certain. Yeah, but for the.
So it's buses and cars?
Buses and cars, yeah. Citywide also, the subway and the ferry too. So that's the definition for our backend data. So if you were gonna look in Manhattan or something, it would be important to consider train access. So this is a lot of information. It's also in its early concept. This is phase 1 of the Vital Parks Explorer. We can't click two elements. We can only click one at a time. But you can click on your community board report by clicking on your community board profile. And right here, we have each of the 21 elements, the definition. You have your community board's access. It will have an asterisk if that includes the future level access or not. And then the citywide average access. So you can actually do a one-page comparison to the citywide average access. Now, again, I've presented you a lot of information. I've asked you to consider, why are parks important to you? That's an important question to ask, especially when you're dealing with your constituents. We found that a lot of times constituents approach the community boards and they have a request, and it's actually for a resource or an element you already have. So this is another tool in your pocket, or whatever, your belt, whatever you say, to actually give them more information, to say, hey, we would actually like to guide you in a different direction. We're under-resourced in this one capacity, right? Or it's an opportunity to say, this is great. We actually have data to back up our funding request, right? It's an opportunity to engage your constituents and actually get the resources that you need in your community. So what's the ask? The ask is, we want you to bring this to your people. We want you to show them how they can look and have more informed advocacy, and how we can be better partners together to provide equitable resources across the 5 boroughs.
Do you have a scaled down version maybe of this presentation that we can send out in an email blast or post on social media?
We do, that's a great question. So we've created actually a really big simplified handout that walks people through how to use the Vital Parks Explorer. It asks the question, identify where you are, find something that's important to you, look at the comparison, and then what to do with the information. It does direct you to your community boards. It directs you to your borough president's office. It also directs you to your community engagement coordinator. So there's 3 levels of it. tells you to go to if you want more resources.
It's like a one pager or PDF you have available?
I can send it to Joe and I can, ask him to send it to the community
And
boards.
then I'll include that in the minutes if you want to send it.
And so the staff, our staff has gone to some of the boards over the last year or so, and I kind of previewed this. We've done some other previews. We did the one big meeting here at Borough Hall last year as well. So they'll start, once the boards start again for the year, the staff will be back around as well, and they can do, not this whole presentation, but they'll do a quick, top lines on the Vital Park Explorer and whatnot as well. And then for the elected offices, we're taking this into consideration too, and yours as well, Marie, but so when we start to have our capital conversations, we're gonna be using this to say, I don't need this to say, I know we don't have a dog run in the Mid-Island, but now I have the data to say, you don't have a dog run, you have three, so, kind of gonna use that in other ways, even internally, to lobby for funding as well.
That is one of our biggest complaints, by the way. The dog run on the Mid-Island.
It's across all 5 boroughs. The biggest thing that's come out of any conversation I've had about the Vital Parks Explorer is no dog runs, no public restrooms. So, or that public restroom is closed, why is it currently on the Vital Parks Explorer? So there's, what I like to say is this data is pulled by raw data, right? Data is sometimes, even though it's supposed to be perfect, it's not. We need you to let us know if the data is wrong, right? Today we found out that there's something broken with the tool. I'm gonna be able to take that back to our digital media team. They'll fix it right up. So anytime that you see there's an issue or there's something that's not right, you're welcome to contact the Borough Commissioner. You can contact myself. It always is routed back to me and my boss to let us know that something's wrong so we can fix it, because it's really important. The other way in which you can do so is you can go down here. If you click on this link, it will take you to the classic government sort of feedback portal. That is routed to the Commissioner Rodriguez-Sosa's office. I review it, the Chief Strategy Officer reviews it, and we send it out to the appropriate team. And one more thing that I wanted to show you that I kind of forgot is, I'm just gonna type in my address, 209. Okay, if I was to type in my address, it is going to take me to my block, and I'm going to be able to see, I'm on hiking trails, obviously there's not a lot of hiking trails in Park Slope. I'm gonna do community gardens. I'm able to find out that I am within a 10-minute walk to a community garden on my block level access, which is, again, right here. And all of these streets in green are serviced by that community garden right there. Do y'all have any questions?
I have none. Anybody else on the board have any?
Will you, I know it's kind of, it's still new, but I think it's cool. Do you think that you'll expand it to include the recreational activities?
We actually have that. So we have public programs down here. I'm gonna encourage you all to look at what the 21 elements are.
Public events.
Public events, thank you. So public events is right here. That includes our public recreation programming. In order to find out what those actual programs are, we encourage you to go to our website and look at the individual park.
So, for example, councilmember funds movies in the parks, that listed on our website as a public event. In theory, that is hooked up to this.
We look at the past 90 days, future 100.
So your events are upcoming, so it would be maybe in the next one.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I think so.
Sorry, I butchered it with the include future. I always love showing that, so I'm a little disappointed it wasn't active today, but we'll get that up and running so you can review it.
Okay, no problem. Will it also include, for example, different, for example, different courts, like basketball courts?
Yeah, actually, before I go, and I won't take much time, I'll actually tell you what each of the 21 are. I'll be super quick. So active recreation areas, that is sports courts, tennis fields, or tennis courts, basketball courts, etc. Community gardens, those are gardens that are operated by Green Thumb. It doesn't necessarily include the private community gardens, okay? Cooling features, these are water fountains and spray features. Dog runs, self-explanatory. Forever wild natural areas, that's been explained to me a lot, but I just, some of that's forest. You have a lot here in Staten Island. Greenways, self-explanatory, hiking trails we went through. Nature centers, not to be confused with rec centers. I think you have 2 in Staten Island.
Green Belt and Blue Heron. right?
Yeah, so where our urban park rangers operate out of, we have good programming there. Newer renovated parks, again, parks that have had a $400,000 capital investment in the last 5 years. Our park enforcement patrol coverage, this is a little tricky. We're only looking at if a park has been covered by patrol within 30 minutes on the day. So like if the park is patrolled by 30 minutes, that's gonna be included on the Vital Parks Explorer. Parks
So
Society.
essentially every park has a patrol?
Yeah.
No, it's gonna tell you which ones do, right?
It's gonna tell you which park has been patrolled for 30 minutes by an urban park ranger. Or not an urban park ranger, by a park enforcement patrolman.
Can we see that option, just out of curiosity?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to Staten Island really quick. Okay, park enforcement patrol. Citywide, 48% of New Yorkers live within a 10-minute walk of a park that is patrolled at least 1/2 hour on a daily average. So 48%, and Staten Island Community Board 1, that's 43%, 2 year above average at 53%, and then Community Board 3 below at 34%. Now, again, that is a park, right? So if you're in Community Board 3, you can't access a park within a 10-minute walk, and that is going to lower the population. But if I was to zoom in, remind me of the community board that you're with?
3.
With 3? Oh, we didn't have anybody here from 3.
She's the
Yeah,
council
council.
district, that
Oh,
the majority
okay.
of their district is in CD3.
Well, you're gonna get us in trouble. Okay, so if I'm gonna zoom in here, again, these green streets have had a PEP officer patrol Tottenville Pool. That's where the green dot, that's where the patrol coverage is. If I look here at Long Pond Park, there's no data within our internal system to show that conflate the two. The park enforcement patrolman has had a duty here at Long Pond Park. If there were, we would expect to see all of these streets turn green and expand that over.
I mean, that's wooded, really.
Yeah. But if I go down here again,
Conference house.
that's Conference House there.
That is in the middle of the street, but that's conference house.
Again, this is where we need you, like if we miss it, we need people to let us know so we can fix the data, okay?
So
Beach areas.
a navigation system tracks the car that goes around? So it's not really
It's their
enforcing
patrol
it throughout.
reports, yeah, it's the data that they, in their internal, we pull data from multiple sites, right? Whatever they upload their reports in is how we feed the data into the system.
Okay.
It's one of those things, like, a lot of what's up there is like factual, a building is there, like, this is more of a subjective thing, but because it's based on the officer doing the report as opposed to like, there is a playground here, you know? So it's, you know, it's a little more askew, I would say, but then as Marie pointed out, like, you can tell the areas that aren't hit are like the natural areas, which is gonna change the way the map looks, so.
But again, as a resource, if you feel like more park enforcement patrol is needed, I, as the agency, cannot say, look, we need more resources. You, as the community board, can. So when you're asking for more resources from the city, right, this data can be used to say, hey, we're actually really underserved in safety for park enforcement patrol coverage. You're only saying it's 30 minutes on average. Like, how do we get more to patrol our parks to keep us
Could
safe?
we look at Midland Beach?
Can you tell me where that is? I'm so sorry.
It's Community Board 2,
Okay.
and it's in the middle of the map, and it's shoreline.
Am
Keep going.
And you have to go further up. So there you are, the 53% right here where there's the green.
Am I going closer?
This is it.
Okay. It does say that it's identifying that as a park that's been patrolled. Or that meets the criteria of the half hour.
Okay. So we get complaints from there, that's the reason. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Any more questions?
I don't think so. Anybody else?
I am leaving the commissioner's office to go to Partnerships for Parks, but I'm always happy to field questions as well, so I'm gonna give you my email if you wanna take it down. It's my first name, James, James.
I'll have it in minutes as well.
Thank you. And my last name is Peoples, which is P-E-E-P-L-E-S. There's a dot between my first name and last name, I should have said. At parks.nyc.gov. Make sure Commissioner Holmesy is CC'd in all of that and happy to field questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was that fast?
Thank you very much. Woo. That's great, thank you. All right, so moving right along to our housekeeping, you guys can just go whenever you wanna
Nice seeing everybody.
get out of here.
Thank you.
Okay, so Brooke was kind enough to send the minutes from the June meeting to everybody, so can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes? Elena first, Debbie second. Okay, we did not have any correspondence. Does anybody have any old business to bring up? Does anybody have any new business to bring up?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Brooke, you have the floor.
I'll make it quick. There's a section of paperwork that is put together in folders. And this is just a quick recap of an item that's going to be on the November ballot. Question number 5. So the Charter Revision Commission has been working this early part of the year to come up with several amendments to the charter that are going to be on the ballot. Page 1, so that's included here. This is from their website. It's just a short paragraph, the principal will be happy to take a paragraph on what each of the proposals mean. The second page, that's this grid, is sort of a translation of what it says, what it will probably look like on the ballot, and what it actually means. In particular, in question number 5, it says, would you like to modernize and digitize the city map? Which sounds great. I would vote for that. And it's not exactly what it means. What they're going to do is essentially remove the designation in the New York City Charter for the borough presidents to maintain a topographical bureau. To maintain what? The topo bureau.
So now, like, if you need house numbers and things like that, you're gonna have to go to a citywide system. So instead of it maybe taking you a few days or a day or two, now you're gonna have to be in with all of the 5 boroughs. So all 5 of the borough presidents are against this because they all realize the backlog that it is going to create for anything that you need, not just house numbers, but anything that comes out of the topo bureau, whether it is like a verification, so like if you're gonna do, if you're gonna put an extension on your house and you need a verification from topo, you're gonna be waiting with the other 502,000 people in the borough and stuff like that. So, like I said, across the city, most of the, all of the borough presidents agree that it will be an outright disaster for people that are gonna be doing work, any kind of work on their house. Whether it's a new building, just like I said, an extension onto your house, anything, even with your common sewer projects where DEP comes in and they need to verify addresses, whether it's for like an downtown acquisition map like we had in South Beach, or a ton of the South Shore projects or New York Beach projects and stuff like that, all of this is going to be delayed because instead of having each borough president's office do it, it's going to be one centralized unit, which they haven't even worked out what that unit is going to look like. So this is gonna be on the ballot in November, and they don't even have in place yet what it's going to look like. It's for something that will be created at a later date, so.
Oh my goodness.
It's just gonna be an overall disaster.
So for general, with this office, in other words, the topo office here at the borough, if this is agreed upon, is closed?
No.
The requirement to have the borough maintain the topographical office will be removed. So they'll close it?
They won't close it because they won't need to have it, but.
But city planning will take over the duties that topo has been performing.
Okay, so now just stay, right, the Costco extension with city planning needed to approve, what was it, 7 years, Brooke, when it was like pretty straightforward?
How long it took.
I mean, and that was just one thing. Like I said, it was the Costco extension, it was there, it was before, and there wasn't even like anything controversial about it. They were just doing like a basic extension. It probably could have been reviewed in a few months. And it was something like 7 years to get the approval. And when you think those are people, Costco has millions and millions of dollars to hire people and push this. What about Brianna, who says, oh, you know, I need an extra bedroom, or I need, you know, or, you know, anybody,
Need new patios.
yeah, I need a new patio or anything like that.
So wait a minute, so then what happens to City of Yes? This will
That's
lead to
exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
They're still trying to get through the city, yes, because they're changing the text, they're, you know, there's a text amendment to go through to begin with, including the ADUs, and then how they were going to rezone some of the different areas for particular uses.
So they don't even know that yet.
They haven't gotten that nailed down, and DOB's not even putting through any applications yet with ADUs, because they're still trying to confirm what the text says. So now you wanna add this on top of it? So, to what Maria started talking about with the house number addresses, this legal size page is kind of like, what does Topo do? Because it's a weird little office, it's very, you know, specific, it gets very dense quickly. But it also is responsible for house numbers that are assigned. We have map and street status requests from agencies, from surveyors, from title companies, from attorneys that need that information that we have.
Like all of our sewer projects, they have to go there, all of our road widening projects go, so just think about like, cause that's how, one of the reasons why after they were fully funded, like South Beach and New York Beach sewer projects took so long because, there was damage and acquisition, and the law department has 2 people that work on damage and acquisition, and that was with them already doing their part. So now picture that we waited all those years for those projects to get started, and then now you're gonna also have a centralized unit that will probably have a few people working in it for that nothing is going to get done. It's gonna be complete, you know, deadlock.
There's a little side-by-side section at the bottom, because specifically, the Department of City Planning does maintain the city map. That's not in question. Where the Topo Bureau comes in is providing all the information that is foundational to that. All the work that surveyors need, all the street information. So it's a combination of both that we can. Having the city planning take everything is a real concern. As Marie mentioned, all 5 borough presidents, and we have been on multiple Zooms with different topographical bureaus around the city, as well as council and chiefs of staff talking about this. All 5 BPs were in absolute unilateral, not even a question, agreement that this is a bad idea.
So how's the word gonna get out?
Well, getting to that, this last attachment is something that was submitted to the Charter Revision Commission before they voted unanimously to include the digitization modernization question on the ballot. So it was sent in, it was received, this is directly from their website. As to any conversation with the DPs, I don't know if there was outreach, there certainly wasn't outreach to the topographical bureaus at all about this. So, last but not least, the cover sheet that has everything. I've listed what the attachments are, and just some stats on what the Topo Bureau has produced this year. This is just our office. And as we said, you know, we assigned house numbers, we assigned 595 house numbers this year through August. We have street status and map requests from probably 2/3 are the industry, surveyors, engineers, what have you. Probably 20% from city agencies, and then the rest are constituents and things of that sort. You may have seen the metal or the sort of brass insets, the little circle insets in sidewalks around here. Those are called monuments, and they're used for surveyors to figure out spatially where things are. And that's what they use to create surveys. We've had a ton of those for the pedestrian ramp projects that have gotten done 33 this year. And information I just sent to one today, it was close to 200 meg worth of maps. So, and again, we are the smallest borough. There are two things in that top paragraph. This is taken directly from the report, where they say 8,000 individual paper maps, and refer to this as being fragmented. I think that's a very deliberate word choice, using fragment, which makes it sound like it's broken or, you know, in need of repair. And it's, I think, an unfair word in this context, because you could say New York City is fragmented, you have 5 boroughs. It's not quite.
We're not treated the same.
It's not true, and the maps too are very well categorized downstairs. Like, you can ask Brooke where something is, she can go downstairs and probably have it up. I don't want to put you on the spot, but very quickly. Like, we had like, for confirmation, so for confirmation, my son and his friends had to do, community service. So they came here and they stuffed envelopes, but we wanted to make it fun for them. So I took them down to the topo unit and everything, because that's like a fun place for the kids. So she had said, you know, where do you guys live? So then they agreed that they would do their school, which at the time was Our Lady Queen of Peace. Brooke had it pulled in like 2 seconds flat, and then she had the original map, she had the current map, she had everything. So it's like everything is well cataloged there. So nothing is fragmented about.
It's not fragmented, and where they got the 8,000 number is.
I mean, even myself, I can go down and, like I said, find things. It's gonna be more like, as opposed to Brooke's 2 minutes, it's gonna be 20 minutes, but like I said, it's well organized enough where, you know, I just don't use it as every day like she does, but I've come to learn where things are and, you know, pull it, and it's very organized. It is not fragmented at all.
But it's a very deliberate word choice, I think, on the Charter Revision Commission's part, to say, you know, city planning needs to kind of, in talking to some of the other topographical bureaus, you know, this 8,000 number was like, you know, Staten Island has close to like 8,000 maps. And both Brooklyn and Manhattan were like, we've got like 25,000 each. So you're looking at, you know, that number. Queens and Bronx, you know, Bronx has been very good about posting what maps, the final maps they do have online. But Queens is a rabbit warren of streets and, you know, maps that have additions on top of additions. So the 8,000 number is wildly
Inaccurate.
and inaccurate. The other thing is, you know, one of the good things, I guess, if you will, from COVID, we didn't have people coming in, so we were starting to scan maps. And we built a library, an archive essentially, of a lot of our maps, and some of them, even the guys in Manhattan are talking that they need to get an archivist in because the maps are so fragile, they can't manage them.
Can't handle it.
So, you know, our concern would be, great, if you're gonna take the maps, where are you gonna get them? And how are you going to inventory them? And just because some tech pro can scan a map, doesn't mean that you know where you're gonna put it specifically on there. So it's not a concern about modernizing and digitizing, we certainly want to play with that. But removing the Topo Bureau basically removes the local institutional knowledge of what goes where. So a big concern, certainly, and as of yesterday, we're 9 weeks out from the election. We had a meeting this morning, thanks to Renee, our lovely comms director. We have some terrific pieces that we're going to look at distributing both in the press, social media, working with the other Topo bureaus, depending on how their BPs would apply. And what we'd like to do, I wanted to introduce this to you all today, and I know we're now starting to kick up Borough Board and what have you now. So for the October meetings, Topo would be more than happy to come to both the land use meetings that you have, as well as the general board meetings. If you'd like us to set up a Zoom, we can come out to your offices, whatever you'd like, to talk about, you know, more about what Topo does. There's also a really sensational video that Renee put together, just sort of a quick, easy to post kind of thing to show what Topo does and why this is a bad idea.
Absolutely, and just think about, because I know we've all gotten this for constituent things. I reached out to DOT for my street, and DOT told me it was a private street.
Oh,
Is this,
no.
and where did those inquiries come from? Brooke. Brooke has got her list, and she's able to say, this is, or Tiffany, they go in and they're like, this much, 23% of, 23.5% of the street is private, this portion is not private, and like I said, if we have to wait for city planning to do that, our roads will be rubble.
Yes.
Right?
to assess IX. Brooke had sent me a question yesterday, and I got my answer today.
So, yeah, so just think about when we have the simplest of questions to city planning to ask them and how long it takes.
The other things of concern, this is a little bit more related to the first group, affordable housing. That's, again, land use is very cheap right now, everyone's talking about it, we kind of fast track it. There are things, just think we're going to fast track projects, which sounds like a great idea, but it's only in 12 districts that have been specifically designated by city plan. 2 of which are in Staten Island, District 50, District 51. So you want to fast track these projects, but it's only for those projects in those particular areas. The way they've kind of phrased what it's going to do and what it actually really will do are dramatically different. The primary concern we have is the last one that's about moving elections to presidential years. And the idea is to have more voter turnout, which I appreciate, that's a good thing. But it completely sucks the oxygen out of the room of any other candidates or any other issues. And it's very similar to what we have going on right now because the mayor's race is so high profile. Other candidates and these questions, you're gonna get your ballot that you fill out, and then you flip it on with the questions. And
Most people don't even read them, they
Right.
just.
And I was told that poll workers can't tell you that there were propositions on the back. Is that true?
no, I think they say you got.
I think they tell you
That's
that
what you know,
they're
like,
allowed
flip.
to allow your.
Right.
They tell you to flip it out.
They do tell you to flip it because they need to make sure that you're aware of everything, but
Okay,
they're not
I
allowed to
understand.
Not
discuss.
discuss it, yeah.
I've gone to elections and I was just handed the folder.
They're supposed to.
Yeah, it's supposed to
Yeah,
tell
they
you
should.
about.
Depending on some districts, you get the questions. or-
Yeah, I will say that where I vote is very comprehensive and they are very good with explaining.
Yeah, exactly, flip it.
Yes. But we will be reaching out to schedule time with all of you in October for both the land use as well as the general board meetings. And for council members, happy to Zoom, happy to come to your offices to talk more about it. We are working on outreach in various outlets, to where we can get the word out. But similar to, turning the ballot over, we can't say you should vote this way. You can just say this is what yes means and this is what no actually really means, because it's very superficial, maybe is the way to put it. Just to say we're gonna digitize and modernize.
The word sounds sweet.
It's.
They'll go with the word and they will sign yes because
Right.
they're not read they just go by word and they're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Right, and the voter guide will not have anything that's really specific, they can't, it has to be very neutral. But this is something that, certainly impacts the VP's office, but also the community as well. That we'd like to talk more in depth about. So, thank you for that, I will reach out to all of you individually and schedule some time for that.
Thank you,
We'll try not to be
for
too
your
dense about it.
comprehensive report, which was more comprehensive than, what the charter commission did. Does anybody else have any new business?
21st. Only October 21st.
Can I entertain a motion to adjourn? Debbie first, can I have a second, Brianna second, all right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, I know